Hi guys, welcome back to Nairobi Legal Insights. My name is Rogers Githinji, and in today's video, I'm going to be explaining the 3 ways in which travel agencies and their websites can be used for money laundering. Now, travel agencies are cash-intensive businesses, and if not properly regulated, they present a platform that can be exploited by criminals to clean up dirty money. So by the end of this video, you should be in a position to appreciate how these travel agencies are actually used by criminals to do what is popularly known as wash. In situations where travel agencies and their websites are actually controlled by criminals, they have the potential to be used for money laundering. Usually, money that is gotten illegally through corruption will be in physical cash. And so, using travel agencies and their websites, criminals are able to mix these illegal funds with clean money, thereby making the illegal funds appear legitimate. So in the course of this video, I'm going to be explaining the 3 ways that can be exploited by criminals to actually clean their dirty money through operating and running travel agencies and their websites. One of the ways in which travel agencies and their websites can be used for money laundering is when we have small travel agencies purchasing very expensive air tickets on behalf of their clients, and those clients proceed to cancel the tickets and ask for a refund. Now, just to give you an example here, we can have a wealthy businessman called Njoroge who wants to clean up dirty money. And so Njoroge will walk into a travel agency in Nairobi and buy a first-class air ticket to Dubai at $10,000. This money is paid to a small travel agency in cash. A week later, Njoroge cancels that air ticket. And then, of course, Njoroge proceeds to ask for a refund. What happens is that the air ticketing company will then send money to Njoroge's account as a legitimate transaction. So the intention was not for Njoroge to travel to Dubai, but the intention was use the travel agency, pay $10,000 for first-class ticket in cash. The ticket is bought. A week later, you cancel the ticket. That money is then sent to Njoroge's bank account appearing as a legitimate transaction. This way, a trick has been put in place to ensure that this money that was originally in cash has now entered in Njoroge's account, appearing to be legitimate because it is a legitimate transaction that was initiated when Njoroge then cancelled his travel and asked for a refund. Remember, the headache of criminals who launder money is how to ensure that the physical cash enters the banking system. This way, a travel agency has been used to facilitate money laundering. Cash was paid in. Later, the air ticket was cancelled. Now, money hits Njoroge's account. In the normal circumstances, if Njoroge went to deposit that $10,000 cash at the bank, there would have been so many questions because he has to explain the source of that income. But by using this route of the travel agency, he ends up with what appears as a legitimate transaction into his bank account when he actually initially buys an expensive air ticket, then proceeds to cancel it and ask for a refund, and now the money comes to hit his account. That way, he has successfully actually ended up with dirty money in the financial system without any questions. The second way in which travel agencies and their websites can be used for cleaning dirty money is when they put in place what we call tour operator networks. We can have a travel agency in Kenya working in conjunction with another in the United States, but what they do is that they create false bookings and documentations that justify why large sums of money are moving from one travel group to another. So, for example purposes, we can have a tour travel company based in Mombasa. It can claim to have booked, a luxurious safari for 50 American tourists. And of course, this tour travel based in Mombasa will proceed to create fake names and details and even create some fake emails to confirm these bookings. What will happen is that this tour company based in Mombasa will be able to receive, for example, $500,000 US dollars as payment from an overseas company. And this could be a company that this Mombasa-based tour company is working with. So the catch here is that we don't have tourists. What is actually happening is that we have false bookings and documentation justifying the false bookings. Money is going to come from another country to hit the Kenyan account of the Kenyan travel agency. And the justification is that this money is a payment from the 50 American tourists. This way, money has actually been laundered. Illegal money has entered the country, and this money is from illegal sources. And of course, when it hits the bank account, this Kenyan-based travel company or travel agency actually can justify why it is receiving that money. It is receiving the money because there are 50 tourists that have paid to come for holiday, and their records, fake bookings have been put up to justify the transaction. And through this process, you can actually see that money has been successfully cleaned. So we have two companies working together, false documentation. The tourists don't actually exist. So when the money hits the bank account of this travel company or travel agency based in Kenya, it can justify through the false documentation that this money is actually a payment because there's a safari being organized. The third way to demonstrate how travel agencies and their websites can be used for money laundering is when we have an instance. For example, let's say there's a travel agency in Kenya. It organizes a holiday to be paid for in installments. And of course, these are 10 small installments. This holiday is targeting clients or tourists from Canada. So these tourists can pay in small installments into the Kenyan bank account of this travel agency. And then what happens here is that upon full payment for the holiday, this travel agency proceeds to actually cancel the booking, and the money is going to be sent to a different account. Now, what just happened here is that we may have had criminals in Canada who wanted their money to enter the Kenyan banking system and eventually go to another criminal. And so a holiday is organized. The reason why the travel agency organized this holiday and the payments are in small installments is to ensure that as money hits its account in the Kenyan banking system, there is, minimum suspicion because those amounts are so small that they're below the reporting requirements in the bank. There's no suspicion. Now, over time, those installments are going to accumulate. The holiday package is then cancelled, and that money is then transferred from the account of the travel agency to another different account. So the assumption here is that then, of course, if a group of people paid for holiday in installments, the travel agency has cancelled, and now money has been transferred to another account, it appears as if money has been returned to its original owners. So by, of course, cancelling a booking and sending money to another account, it could appear as an agreement that then money that belonged to a certain group of people has been returned through another different account. Ideally here, the case could have been that we had criminals in Canada that actually wanted their money to enter the Kenyan banking system and detected, but that entire transaction was facilitated by a travel agency that then received the money, and it could justify that it is organizing a trip for tourists, but ideally it is actually being involved in money laundering. Travel agencies and various tour companies have a potential to be used for money laundering because they are cash intensive, meaning that people can pay for their holidays in cash. And remember, criminals usually have illegitimate funds in physical cash. Money that you get from corruption will be in physical cash. And so these travel agencies can be used to facilitate money laundering by mixing both the legitimate money they get from the travel business and the illegitimate money they may get from someone trying to clean dirty money. And then, of course, they can proceed to make bookings and cancel them while working in conjunction with criminals. They can book air tickets, cancel them, and ensure that that money is again wired to the account of the criminal that wanted it in the bank. Remember, the headache of a criminal is to see how their physical cash from corruption can be integrated into the economy and appear legitimate. And so these travel agencies and tour companies, if not well regulated, actually pose a high risk for money laundering. So you may see a very successful travel and tour company, but actually the source of income and revenue for that particular travel agency could be a mixture of both clean and dirty money. So with this in mind, as an anti-money laundering specialist, this information is shared to empower stakeholders to understand how money laundering can be, of course, how do you come in to ensure that this money laundering doesn't happen through travel agencies, and what specific legislations can be put in place to ensure that, this crime is actually put under control. Because when there is money laundering, it affects people who are actually legitimately running businesses. Imagine if you're running a travel agency and you're competing against someone who is actually using both clean and dirty money to run that agency. They appear so successful, but actually they're in the business of cleaning money, as I've explained in the course of this video from the start. These travel agencies can be controlled by criminals overseas, and they can pose as tourists to pay money to another country, working in conjunction with another travel agency, and those transfers are made. There's minimum suspicion, we have false bookings, we have air tickets being cancelled. In all, they're actually being used, to facilitate financial crime. In our next video, I'm going to be explaining how the car sales industry can potentially be used for money laundering, and so highlighting some of the gaps that if we have to fight money laundering effectively, we need to close these gaps from a policy perspective, so that all criminals are held accountable. Money laundering is very disastrous because it has a huge impact on those that actually run legitimate businesses. Imagine competing against someone. You take a loan to run a business, but your neighbor is actually not entirely running their business. They're just using it as a vehicle. They're using it as a means to clean dirty money. That business is going to end up affecting those that are actually struggling so hard to make money through loans they've gotten in the bank to ensure that they survive. Money laundering destroys an economy. And the purpose of this content is to empower you to also help policymakers understand these challenges and, inform new policies that can then effectively curb money laundering. Of course, should you have questions, you can comment on this video. If you are a new person on Nairobi Legal Insights, consider subscribing so that you have access to these videos and receive notifications whenever a new video is posted. Nairobi Legal Insights appears the same on LinkedIn and TikTok. And of course, my name is Rogers Githinji, and see you next time.